All right, here we go. Chapter 13. I think you guys have one more after this. Chapter 13. Juvenile justice. Juvenile justice. If we can get these kids early, you think that maybe we can stop some type of crime, right? Because all the juveniles in the world just wait till they're 18 years old and then decide to do crime, right? Wrong. All right, so the background and the overview of juvenile justice starts with pauperism. Started in the early 19th century, and that's where they started with underserving the poor, like helping them out on the poor because they deemed them to be dishonest, lazy, manipulative individuals. So that's what they had the juvenile justice system back in the day for. They would try to take care of these delinquents quite early in life. And again, look how early it started in the 19th century and where we are now. Year 2020, do we still have juveniles committing crime? Yes, we do. We do have them committing crime. So I know it's hard to believe. All right. So, overview here. I have a little cartoon that the participation of any minor under the age of 18, right? 17 on the cusp of turning 18. They're probably going to give it to them being 18 years old, that you're an adult. The institutions for the juvenile justice system, no separate facilities for youthful offenders. They're all together, right? The boys and girls are housed all together at the juvenile hall, the systems. They don't sleep together. They have different quarters, but they're all under one roof. They try to target those risks of engaging in a lot of delinquency. Men, young boys, are more likely to be detained at the pretrial stages than the young girls. Because if you look at the data, the men tend to be more violent than some girls. However, I've come across some very violent girls and rather fight with the men than I would some of these girls I've come across or young women. Okay, so from here is going to be your assignment. Listen to this guy talking about the history of the juvenile justice system. Tell me 3 things you learned. Started in the New York House Refuge back in 1825. City. Focus on children whose parents at that time were unable to care for them due to disease, neglect, or death. So they helped out the juveniles during that time. Right, so the overview of the juvenile justice system, it was originally designed to treat the young individual delinquents, not to punish them. It wasn't a punitive action against them. However, it did become punitive action around the 20th century, and the kids do not have the same protections as adults do because you're an adult, right? Juveniles, we got to look out for. Here's some landmark cases regarding the Supreme Court and their decisions that the need for due process for juvenile court. They talk about Kent versus the United States, where the waiving the jurisdiction without a hearing is a violation. You can't just waive jurisdiction, because in my other modules we talked about wherever the crime happened, right? That's the jurisdiction you need to be tried in. In re Gulf, juveniles must be informed of their rights to remain silent. Across the board, right? Even if you're not going to question them on a crime, they still have the rights. You advise them of the rights per Miranda. Just do it anytime you come in contact with a juvenile. Obviously, a juvenile suspect, not a victim or anything on that aspect, okay? In re Winship has the burden of proof for juveniles. Adjudication hearing must be beyond a reasonable doubt, and that is determined by a judge. Okay, some more Supreme Court decisions here highlighted in the 1960s in case you ever go on Jeopardy and they ask you what Stanford versus Kentucky. In 1989, you will now know that there was no national consensus prohibiting the death penalty for juvenile murderers who were either 16 or 17 years old at the time of the crime. So that's still true today, right? That they get life in prison, and they're now looking that over. And so you could take a look at that. Eddings versus Oklahoma, age should be considered as a mitigating factor. So if there is an 11-year-old who is in custody for murder because he killed somebody, they're looking at their age as opposed to a 17-year-old gangbanger who's had a history of crime when determining what type of sentence they should receive and regarding the death penalty. Okay, because you want to help out the juveniles. All right, so delinquency. Recently, Modesto had some people running around, shooting everybody with paintballs, paintball guns, which can poke your eye out, literally, right? If you get hit in the eye. But those are delinquents. Some of the delinquency cases that the court hears in juvenile court, so they're not going to have a long criminal record. All right, delinquency cases, status offenders. Can't be drinking alcohol under the age of 21. I know it's a shocker for some of you out there, right? A lot of you guys aren't 21, and right? Can't be doing that. It's against the law. If you're going to get in law enforcement, don't do it, right? Because you have to do a background check. And if one of your friends or neighbors says, oh, yeah, they drank at a party or whatever, and you say, no, I'm a golden angel. I've never drank before the age of 21. You're going to show you lie, you die, you're out of law enforcement. Don't do it. Truancy, got to go to school. Almost said church, but we can't even go to church, right? Because you have to have less than 20%. You got to go to school, even if it's on the computer nowadays. We're in the pandemic age, and they're still checking to see if you're on the computer, and if not, they can charge you with truancy, which I have no idea what the consequences for that is, because before, your parents would get hauled off to jail, but if the parents are home and the kids aren't on the computer, now are they going to haul the parents off to jail now for truancy, and the kids are going to be home by themselves? How does that work? Running away, can't run away, right? From home, it's against the law. Responses to status offenses vary by state by state. So what is illegal here in California may not be illegal in Texas, or may not be illegal in Florida. What's legal in Florida may not be illegal here in California, so it all depends. Treated same as offending counterparts and can be harmful to use over a long run, depending on how bad their situation is at home. They were trying to do a study, I think I already told you in the other module, a 15-year-old period, watching young girls who are in there for violent crimes to see if they had issues at home prior to being caught for their violent crimes. All right, so legal custody. If it's a dependency case and the child is awarded to the court is now responsible for all decisions made about the child. Physical custody, the youth sent to live with a temporary home or foster care of a family. The court may assign physical custody to another family member, family, or friend. If they find out that parent cannot control the child, they will send them somewhere else. Okay. CPS gets involved when the child becomes really out of control. Maybe there's other issues at home. And for the dependency cases, some of the outcomes of the case, it says here, may remain in the parent's custody, maybe a social worker supervision or specific family requirements. Now with COVID, who knows what's going on? I'm telling you guys right now, because of this pandemic, there's going to be so many opportunities. They're going to need tons of social workers, tons of CPS workers, tons of welfare workers, tons of teachers, tons of people working with the kids, because of so much is going to come out to COVID. Because feel free to Google how many kids right now are getting abused, child neglect and stuff when school is open. Now that it's closed, it's dropped down dramatically. They said up to 30 million cases so far have gone down. That's because the kids aren't going to school and reporting the bad things mommy and daddy are doing to them, or aunt and uncle, or anything else. So nobody can help them, and there's no teachers to help them or anything else. Okay. The Juvenile Justice Intake Program, there's a little video on this. Tell me 3 things you learned from that video. But it talks about juveniles entering the system, and how once you start entering the system, it's hard to get rid of your jacket. You can't have it checked when you turn 18, depending on the crimes within that. So you can have to go to court and get it taken care of. They also talk about the discretion, whether they're going to keep you in juvenile hall or call mommy and daddy to pick you up. And maybe, like I said earlier on the previous module, you might get a nice little ankle bracelet tied to your legs so you can show all your family and friends how you're a productive member of society. Okay, the processing in juvenile court, they say the majority of kids, and it's true, remain in the custody of parents and guardians, which, if they're committing the crime under the roof of the parents and guardians, they get caught and you send them back to the parents and guardians. What really are the ramifications, right? That's how I look at it. Remember the hot stove rule? right? If you don't do something immediately and let it go on, it can get out of hand. Same thing, I believe, happens because look at our crime rates, just continuously going on. And now I think Oregon just passed a law. Now you can be in possession of cocaine and heroin. It's okay to have it. So that means, because Oregon had the marijuana law, everybody's smoking and toking, right? We're doing the best imitation of Cheech and Chong. So now I think it's just a matter of time, because now California, you can have coke and meth, and if you get caught, it's just a ticket. Heroin, you still go to jail. But now that you can legally possess it up there, and I think it's less than a couple of ounces, which is, oh, okay, I'm just walking around with a couple of ounces of heroin and cocaine on me, and I'm not going to go to jail. I'm like, wow, I need to move my kid out of this area and move to the Midwest, where it's still 10 years behind us. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because one of my last videos says it was too long for YouTube. So stand by, we'll upload to the next one.